What's up, guys? Coach Andrew Simmons from Lifelong Endurance, and today we're going to talk about how to tackle technical trails. We're out here at Zorro, which is just west of Green Mountain here in Denver, Colorado. And one of the things we're going to go through today is how do we handle coming down through turns, and how do we help build up your confidence? One of the ideas that I'll talk about today is the idea of sessioning. Sessioning is basically the idea of coming and going through a section of a turn over and over and over, going through a rock garden over and over and over. The big idea behind that is building your confidence. This is where most athletes struggle, is that they don't know how to handle a trail that might be changing underneath them and being able to handle the different things that trails can throw at you, from loose rocks to big rocks to really steep technical terrain. So let's dive in. All right, so what we're going to talk about first is the idea of line of sight. When we're trail running, the first thing that I see that really hampers people from having a successful trail run is that they're looking right down at their feet. When we look down at our feet, we're not able to see anything that's happening in front of us. So if we look at the trail behind me, we can kind of see where mountain bikers have come through. This is actually a great path to help follow. You're going to be able to see, and I'll highlight this in the video, where athletes can come down. So follow me. When I'm coming down, I want to be looking at the trail and through the turn as I'm coming through it. So as I'm running, I'm going to be looking now through the corner, trying to figure out what do I want to hit, what do I want to miss. If you guys will take a look down here, we'll see that there's a lot of loose rock, and all this loose rock is what you're going to slip on as an athlete. So we actually want to push ourselves from cutting in too sharp and actually get down here into this flatter area where we're not going to have as much loose rock to slip on. All of this inside area is where we're going to slip, okay? When we're looking through the turn, what I want you guys to think of is you're turning and looking. You've already chosen this path way back here. So as you come through the turn, you're now going to look and see what's happening down the trail further. Because when you're running, if you're looking straight down at your feet, you can't plan and predict. There's a big object, a rock, something else that you need to move out of the way of. What's most important is that you're up and looking at it. It's also going to help you build better body position as you head down. All right, so the next big thing to take into consideration when you're running downhill is your actual body position. This is where a lot of people really get stuck, is they move from a position of normal running with a nice upright body position to this backwards kind of, ooh, I'm braking, I have to brake a lot, and then they're looking down. And that's really gonna start to create some pretty bad inconsistencies with your form. So what I want you guys to remember is that when we're running, normally I tell you guys in cue as much as possible, keep those elbows in. But when we're running downhill and trying to manage terrain, it's okay if those elbows do come out a little bit. What I want you guys to think is that your body position forward and backwards can be used a little bit as a brake. But the biggest brakes that you guys have are your quads and your glutes. So when we're descending, if you need to brake, what I want you guys to think of is a hinge at the hips, just like we would in a squat or even a deadlift. And what I want you to think is that as you're heading downhill, drop your hips if you want to brake. If you don't want to brake and you want to go faster, you're going to stand up and stand out of it. So let's take a look at what that would actually look like. So that might have been a really subtle look, but as I came through the turn here, I used this angle to drop my hips and continue moving. You can brake into a turn and use the berm to help you brake. It's also going to help keep your feet under your center of mass. That's really the most important part of this body position piece. Arms can be out here to help you get better balance, but if we're putting our feet way out here or we're way leaned over, we're gonna tumble over. We always wanna try and keep our feet underneath our hips and use our hips up and down to be able to provide that brake. So that eccentric force, right, that trying to go against gravity, that's what we're trying to learn how to control when we're going downhill. All right, next thing we're gonna talk about here is a little bit of shoe tech and why it's important to not wear road shoes out on the trail. Now, can you get away with it? Absolutely. I see a lot of athletes do it every single day. It's a great way to get started. You can use your road shoes on the trails. But if you start to get out here more and more and find that you're loving trail running, what I'll encourage you to do is get a piece of trail-specific shoes. What you're gonna look for is you're gonna see a rubberized toe cap, and that's gonna help you if you're gonna kick a rock. It's gonna happen when you're out trail running. It's an important piece of tech. What you're also gonna see is you're gonna see two different variations in terms of tread. Now, when we look really closely at the tread, we'll see that if we're going uphill, we want this reverse grip. That's what's gonna help us grip in as we're going up. When we're going downhill, we see that this tread kind of flips over, and this is what's gonna help you brake. Now, what's most important is that when you're headed downhill, what you wanna think about is using as much of this shoe in contact with the ground as possible. The more ground contact you have with the shoe, the less likely you are to slip. Now, if you do slip, you've got a lot of shoe on the ground. You're gonna be able to grip with a little bit of slip. That's what's really important, is that these shoes have a different type of rubber that's gonna help you take something that's slipping into something that's gripping and help you keep toeing off and keep moving. Now, the last piece here is you'll notice that a lot of trail shoes are gonna have a shoe collar. It's gonna be something that's flexible, both at the front of the shoe, at the tongue, and also the rear part. And that's just to help prevent rocks from getting in. So if you're struggling with getting rocks inside your shoes, what I'll also encourage is a taller pair of socks to go along with a pair of trail shoes. If you get muddy, if you find yourself kicking yourself a lot, then this will be a great way to prevent yourself from getting all scraped up out there. All right, so let's put all these different pieces together. We talked about line of sight, we talked about body position, and we talked about finding a line. Now, if you guys look behind me, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a rock garden here. This extends for about another 200 yards down this trail. What you're gonna constantly have to be doing is thinking about picking up your feet while defining that path down the trail. If I'm looking straight down right here, I can't pick out the rocks that are gonna be right in front of me. So I still need to have my eyes up. What I want you to think about is that your brain is already doing the calculus that needs to happen as you're looking at this. You're gonna move left, you're gonna move right. Your body's gonna be able to handle that. If you're looking down as you fall, you're not gonna be able to have that reaction time. You're not gonna be able to get that braking. So let's take a look at what this looks like at speed. All right, so to put all that together, as you guys saw me come through here, what I was really trying to avoid at all costs was getting into this really loose stuff as I was changing my body position and lowering my hips. That has the chance to slip out from under me. I want to look to use as many of these flat surfaces that I know are secure. If you look at the top of this rock, it's got a lot of loose stuff on it, okay? That's what's gonna shoot you out. You wanna try to avoid places that are gonna have that. So we do something called picking and placing. I'm gonna pick a spot, I'm gonna try and place my foot. And as we're going through, we're gonna pick and place constantly. And we're doing that as we're going and looking through the trail, okay? So all considered, to build that confidence in technical downhill running and technical trail running, the best thing you can do is come back and run these sections multiple times. Sessioning is one of the most important pieces that you can do in your trail running.